The moment Alex Eala's opponent questioned her racket, the entire atmosphere in Cincinnati changed. Gabriela Ruse was already staring at a nightmare scoreline. Alex had taken the opening set 6-1 and was leading 3-0 in the second. Her opponent wasn't finding answers on serve, her rallies were breaking down, and Alex's left-handed game was creating problems from the first ball. Then came the unexpected moment. Ruse asked officials to inspect Alex's racket. Suddenly, this wasn't just another tennis match. The pause created a wave of confusion around the stadium. Why the racket? What had caught Ruse's attention? And perhaps most importantly, what did it say about the pressure Alex had created on the other side of the net? Whatever the intention behind the request, the timing made the moment impossible to ignore. Alex had already established complete control. She wasn't simply hitting harder than Ruse. She was taking away the comfortable patterns that allow a player to settle into a match. Her returns were aggressive. Her movement was sharp. Her left-handed forehand constantly changed the geometry of the court. And instead of standing several feet behind the baseline and waiting for rallies to develop, Alex repeatedly looked for opportunities to move forward. That decision made Ruse feel rushed. Every time Ruse tried to start a normal service game, Alex seemed ready to attack the next ball. There was very little breathing room. A serve that might normally begin a neutral rally was suddenly becoming an invitation for Alex to take control. And that is where the scoreboard became even more revealing. 6-1 in the first set. 3-love in the second. At that point, Ruse wasn't simply trying to win points. She was trying to stop the match from completely running away. The fascinating part was Alex's composure. A moment like the racket inspection could easily distract a young player. The match stops. Officials become involved. The crowd reacts. Suddenly, something completely outside the normal rhythm of tennis becomes the center of attention. Alex didn't appear to let it change her mindset. She waited. She stayed focused. And when the match resumed, the same player returned to the court. That calmness is important because Alex's biggest advantage wasn't only her shot making. It was the sense that she knew exactly what she wanted to do. This wasn't the same Alex Eala who had faced Ruse in their previous meeting. Ruse had already defeated Alex during qualifying at the 2024 US Open, so there was history between these two players. Alex knew what it felt like to start strongly against Ruse and still watch the match turn around. This time, however, she refused to give her opponent that opportunity. From the opening games, Alex played with a different level of authority. Her serve created openings. Her return put immediate pressure on Ruse. And her forehand repeatedly forced Ruse into uncomfortable defensive positions. The left-handed spin was especially troublesome. Instead of giving Ruse the same ball over and over, Alex constantly changed the shape and direction of rallies. Balls that looked manageable at first were suddenly jumping away from the ideal contact point. Ruse was being forced to adjust her feet, her spacing, and her timing. That creates a dangerous chain reaction in tennis. When your opponent keeps taking away your preferred contact point, you start arriving late. When you start arriving late, your shots lose precision. Then you begin pressing. And once you start pressing, mistakes appear. That seemed to be the pattern developing in Cincinnati. Ruse couldn't establish the kind of reliable service rhythm she needed. Alex's return position and aggressive first shots meant there was rarely a simple reset. Normally, a player can use a few comfortable service points to settle down. A big serve, a short return, a quick forehand. Suddenly the game feels manageable again. Alex wasn't allowing that comfort. She kept making Ruse work, and the pressure became visible on the scoreboard. The first set wasn't merely a 6-1 victory. It represented a complete shift in control. Alex was deciding where rallies were played, how quickly they developed, and how much space Ruse had to operate. Even the Cincinnati crowd seemed to sense that something unusual was happening. The reaction grew gradually. A strong return received a louder response. A spectacular forehand produced another wave of noise. Another Alex hold brought even more energy. The stadium was beginning to recognize that this wasn't a temporary hot streak. Alex was taking over. Then the second set started, and instead of giving Ruse an opening, Alex accelerated. That was arguably the most impressive part. Dominant players can sometimes lose focus after winning a one-sided opening set. They relax. They give their opponent an early break chance. Suddenly the match becomes complicated again. Alex did the opposite. She continued applying pressure. She continued stepping forward. She continued making Ruse uncomfortable. And eventually, the frustration of the situation became impossible to separate from the tennis itself. That is what made the racket inspection moments so fascinating. It arrived after Alex had already spent a long stretch forcing Ruse away from her preferred patterns. Whether the inspection changed anything or not, the moment became symbolic because it happened when Ruse desperately needed something to alter the momentum. Alex, meanwhile, had no reason to chase the drama. Her tennis was already speaking for her. She had the lead. She had the momentum. And she had the confidence of a player who believed the match was under control. For Alex, this was also more than simply another victory. It was an answer to the past. Ruse had beaten her before. This time, Alex wasn't allowing the same comeback story to develop. She was stronger in the exchanges, more aggressive on returns, and much more composed when the match became tense. The biggest message from Cincinnati wasn't that Alex had discovered some magical new weapon. It was that she had become far harder to disrupt. She could start fast without panicking. She could absorb pressure without losing her identity. And when an opponent tried to change the rhythm, Alex could simply return to the same plan, move forward, attack early, use her left-handed angles, and make every ball matter. That is why this match became so memorable. The scoreline told one story. The atmosphere told another. But the deeper story was about evolution. Alex Eala wasn't playing like someone hoping to pull off an upset. She was playing like someone who expected to control the match. And by the time the crowd fully realized what was happening, Ruse was already fighting against a mountain of momentum. The racket controversy may have created the strangest pause of the match. But Alex's tennis created the real headline. She didn't need an explanation for her dominance. She simply kept producing it. The score was 6-1, 3-0, and then everything suddenly stopped. Gabriela Ruse wasn't just losing control of the match. She looked like she couldn't find a way to make the match feel normal again. Alex Eala had built a lead that was becoming almost impossible to escape, and then came the moment nobody expected. Ruse asked officials to inspect Alex's racket. In an instant, the tennis match became something much bigger. Because this wasn't happening at the beginning of a close contest. It wasn't happening after one questionable point. It happened when Alex was already dictating the match and Ruse was desperately searching for a way to change the momentum. And that timing made the moment unforgettable. Ruse had experience. She had beaten Alex before. She knew what it took to turn a match against her. But Cincinnati was showing a completely different version of Alex. There was no reset. Usually, losing the first set gives a player an opportunity to mentally start again. You sit down, take a breath, rethink the tactics, and tell yourself that the second set is a fresh contest. Ruse never got that feeling. The same problems that destroyed her first set were still waiting for her in the second. Alex was still attacking returns early. She was still using her left-handed angles to move Ruse away from comfortable positions. And whenever Ruse appeared ready to settle into a rally, Alex seemed to have another response. That is a brutal kind of pressure. If Ruse tried to hit through Alex, Alex absorbed the pace and redirected it. If Ruse slowed things down, Alex had more time to construct the point. If Ruse waited for an error, Alex refused to donate enough easy points. There was simply no comfortable option. And then there was Alex's spin. It wasn't necessarily about spectacular winners. It was about making the ball arrive differently from what Ruse wanted. Sometimes it bounced higher. Sometimes it curved away. Sometimes it reached Ruse just early enough to disrupt her timing. Those tiny differences can become enormous when a player is already under pressure. You can see the ball clearly and still feel completely uncomfortable hitting it. That appeared to be happening to Ruse. And when a player starts feeling that way, the mind can become desperate for an explanation. Was it the timing? Was it the bounce? Was it the strings? Was it the opponent's movement? Was something else making the ball behave differently? That is when the racket became the center of attention. Ruse requested an inspection of Alex's racket, creating one of the strangest pauses of the match. Think about the scene. Alex was cruising. Ruse was struggling. The crowd was fully invested. And suddenly, officials were being asked to examine the equipment of the player who was dominating. For spectators, the timing was impossible to ignore. If the request had happened during a tight opening set, perhaps it would have been viewed differently. If the score had been level, perhaps it would have felt like a routine technical concern. But at 6-1 and 3-0, the optics were completely different. The Cincinnati crowd reacted. There were whistles, boos, and a wave of frustration from sections of the stadium that clearly wanted the tennis to continue. Of course, that reaction doesn't automatically prove what Ruse intended. She may genuinely have believed something felt unusual. She may have been reacting to the combination of Alex's spin, pace, and return position. But in sports, timing changes perception. And the timing made the request feel far more dramatic than a simple equipment check. For Alex, the smartest response was also the simplest one. Stay calm. She didn't need to argue. She didn't need to confront Ruse. She didn't need to turn toward the crowd and make the situation even bigger. She simply allowed the officials to do their job. That composure was important, because interruptions can destroy momentum just as quickly as they create it. 1 minute you're playing your best tennis. The next, you're standing around thinking about an unexpected complaint, watching officials examine equipment while thousands of people react around you. A less experienced player could easily become distracted. Alex didn't appear to. And that might have been one of the strongest signs of how much she has developed. Her rise has brought enormous attention. Every match now carries more expectation, more noise, and more eyes watching her. But instead of allowing that pressure to control her, Alex looked increasingly comfortable inside it. That is the bigger story behind this moment. The racket inspection became the headline because it was unusual. But Alex's tennis created the situation in the first place. She had taken the opening set 6-1. She had raced ahead 3-0 in the second. She had repeatedly disrupted Ruse's service rhythm. She had taken away easy patterns. And she had done it without looking frantic herself. That is what separates simply playing well from controlling a match. Alex wasn't waiting for Ruse to make the match easy. She was making it difficult. And once the scoreboard reached 6-1, 3-0, every problem became magnified. Ruse needed answers. Alex kept asking questions. The racket inspection may have interrupted the action, but it couldn't erase the scoreboard. It couldn't erase the pressure. And it certainly couldn't erase what Alex had already done on the court. For Cincinnati, that was the moment the match became impossible to ignore. Alex wasn't just beating Ruse. She was showing that the pressure of the moment no longer scared her, and that may have been the most important victory of all. The racket was checked. Nothing was wrong. And somehow, that made the entire situation even more explosive. Alex Eala had already built a commanding advantage when the unexpected equipment inspection briefly stopped the match. But once officials finished their examination, the answer was clear. There was no equipment violation and no secret explanation for the way Alex was dominating. The racket was fine. And that left everyone looking back at the tennis itself. Alex had already taken the opening set 6-1 and moved ahead 3-0 in the second. She was returning aggressively, changing direction early, and using the natural advantages of her left-handed game to keep Gabriela Ruse from finding a comfortable rhythm. The inspection could have created uncertainty. Instead, it removed it. Whatever questions had been raised about the racket were answered publicly, and the attention immediately returned to the player holding it. That was the strange twist. The interruption was supposed to be a break in Alex's momentum. Instead, once the officials cleared the equipment, the atmosphere around the court became even more intense. The Cincinnati crowd had watched everything unfold. They had seen Alex establish control. They had seen Ruse struggle to protect her serve. They had seen the second set begin with Alex continuing exactly where she left off. And then they watched the racket become part of the story. When the inspection came back without a problem, many spectators reacted emotionally. Whistles and boos filled the stadium as the crowd made its feelings known. But there is an important distinction here. A crowd reaction does not tell us exactly what Ruse intended. She may genuinely have believed something about the equipment needed to be checked. She may have been reacting to a ball that felt unusually difficult to handle. Still, from the outside, the timing was dramatic. At 6-1, 3-0, any interruption was going to attract attention. And once the racket was cleared, the simplest explanation remained the tennis itself. Alex was playing extremely well. Her returns were arriving early. Her movement was keeping her in position to attack. Her forehand was creating uncomfortable angles. And the left-handed spin was forcing Ruse to make constant adjustments. None of that required a mystery. It required execution. That is what made the moment so powerful for Alex's supporters. The question had been placed in the middle of the match, and after the inspection, there was no equipment issue to explain the scoreline. The pressure was coming from Alex, and Ruse had to deal with it. That changed the emotional temperature of the stadium. Before the inspection, this could still be viewed as a one-sided tennis match where the trailing player was searching for a tactical solution. Afterward, the crowd had another layer of emotion. Support for Alex became louder. Every strong return felt like another response. Every winner seemed to reinforce the same message. And every time Alex remained composed, the contrast became more noticeable. For Ruse, that was an extremely difficult environment. A pause can sometimes help a player who is behind. It gives them time to breathe. It gives them a chance to interrupt the opponent's rhythm. It can create a mental reset. But this interruption didn't appear to give Ruse the reset she needed. If anything, it intensified the atmosphere. And that matters because Alex's rise has already created a level of attention that follows her from tournament to tournament. Washington had increased the spotlight. Toronto demonstrated the size and passion of her support. Cincinnati brought another test. Could that momentum continue against another difficult opponent on another major stage? Then this unusual moment happened. Suddenly, the match had controversy. The crowd had something to react to. And Alex had an opportunity to demonstrate something that has nothing to do with rankings or shot speed. Composure. She didn't need to turn the situation into a personal confrontation. She didn't need to make exaggerated gestures. She allowed the officials to handle it and waited for the match to continue. That was arguably more powerful than any argument could have been, because the inspection ended without changing the central fact. Alex was still ahead. The racket was still legal. And Ruse still had to find a way through the same opponent who had been dominating the court. Online, meanwhile, the moment took on a life of its own. Fans clipped the incident. They debated what it meant. Some viewed it as frustration. Others saw it as gamesmanship. Some simply found the whole sequence bizarre. And, naturally, the internet turned Alex's unusual spin and left-handed patterns into jokes and fan-made descriptions. One phrase began circulating among fans to describe the strange movement they believed they were seeing from Alex's shots. But it was never an official tennis term or a technical classification. The underlying point was much simpler. Ruse could see the ball. She just wasn't comfortable with what happened after it bounced. That distinction matters. A difficult ball isn't automatically suspicious. A strange bounce isn't evidence of illegal equipment. And a player struggling against an unusual style doesn't mean anything improper is happening. The inspection settled that part of the story. But the match still had another twist waiting. Because after all the noise surrounding the racket, Ruse later required medical attention. Reports from the match indicated that she received treatment around her right ankle or foot. And that deserves to be acknowledged. It is possible to question the timing or interpretation of a racket inspection without dismissing a player's physical problem. Those are two separate issues. The match had already become chaotic. The scoreboard was heavily tilted toward Alex. The crowd was emotionally invested. The equipment had been checked. And then Ruse's physical issue added another unexpected interruption. Before anyone could fully process one development, another had arrived. That is why this Cincinnati match became far more memorable than an ordinary straight-set scoreline. It had momentum. It had controversy. It had a highly emotional crowd. It had an equipment inspection. And eventually, it had a medical interruption. But beneath all of that noise was the clearest story of all. Alex Eala had taken control with her tennis. The racket didn't explain it. The crowd didn't create it. The controversy didn't cause it. Alex had built the advantage point by point. And when the unusual moment arrived, she showed something equally important. She could stay composed while the entire atmosphere around her became louder. The racket was checked. The equipment was cleared. And Alex was still in control. That was the part Cincinnati could not ignore. Cincinnati started with a tennis match. It ended like a movie. Alex Eala dominated the opening set, surged ahead in the second, watched Gabriela Ruse's racket become the center of controversy, saw her opponent receive medical attention, and then lightning and heavy rain brought play to a halt. And somehow, that still wasn't the end. When everything was finally over, the scoreboard showed Alex Eala 6-1, 3-0, Ruse retired. On paper, it looked straightforward. In reality, almost nothing about this match felt straightforward. Alex had already taken control before the drama began. Her returns were aggressive, her movement was confident, and her left-handed game repeatedly pushed Ruse into uncomfortable positions. Then the racket was questioned. Officials checked it. Nothing was found to be wrong. Then Ruse received treatment for a physical issue. And before the match could properly settle again, the weather intervened. Lightning and heavy rain forced another suspension. It was one interruption after another. Eventually, Ruse could not continue, and Alex advanced. But the official score doesn't tell the entire story. Because this wasn't just about advancing to the next round. There was history behind it. Ruse had defeated Alex during 2024 US Open qualifying after Alex had taken the opening set. For a young player, a loss like that can linger. You remember having control and then watching the match disappear. Cincinnati offered Alex an opportunity to rewrite that memory. And she did it emphatically. There was no dramatic comeback to survive. No final set escape. No last-minute rescue. Alex immediately put Ruse under pressure and refused to let her establish the rhythm she needed. Her return game was particularly effective. Instead of allowing Ruse to start points comfortably, Alex repeatedly attacked early. Her left-handed forehand created angles that forced Ruse to cover more court, while the spin changed the height and timing of the ball. The result was a match that increasingly felt uncomfortable for Ruse. Then came the racket inspection. Whatever motivated the request, it created an incredibly unusual scene. Alex was leading 6-1, 3-0, yet suddenly the focus moved away from the scoreboard and toward her equipment. That could have distracted her. It could have made her angry. It could have caused her to rush once play resumed. Instead, Alex stayed composed. She let the officials handle the situation and waited. That reaction may have been more important than people realize. Because Alex's rise has brought a completely different level of attention. Every crowd reaction is louder. Every opponent arrives knowing there will be pressure around the match. Every unusual moment can instantly become part of the story. And yet Alex looked increasingly comfortable handling the chaos. That is a major difference between simply playing good tennis and becoming a dangerous competitor. You don't only need weapons when everything is going perfectly. You need composure when the match becomes weird. You need discipline when the crowd gets emotional. You need concentration when an interruption threatens your rhythm. Alex showed all three. And then the weather made the situation even stranger. After the medical treatment, lightning and heavy rain forced play to stop again. At that point, the match had become almost surreal. Dominant first set. Early second set lead. Racket inspection. Medical treatment. Weather delay. Retirement. It was a sequence nobody could have scripted. But beneath all that chaos, one fact remained constant. Alex was in control before the interruptions began. That is why the result should not be reduced to an injury retirement. Ruse's physical problem deserves respect, and an opponent retiring is never something a player should be blamed for. But Alex had already established the advantage. She had already created the pressure. She had already taken the first set and broken ahead in the second, and now comes the bigger challenge. Amanda Anisimova. A top 10 opponent brings an entirely different level of difficulty. More power. More experience. More expectations. Anisimova won't be approaching Alex as an emerging player who is simply having a great run. She'll be preparing for a legitimate threat. And that may be the biggest thing Cincinnati revealed. The racket wasn't the mystery. The spin wasn't illegal. The equipment wasn't giving Alex some hidden advantage. The pressure was coming from Alex herself. Her returns. Her movement. Her confidence. Her willingness to attack. And, perhaps most importantly, her ability to remain calm when the match became chaotic. So yes, the official result says Alex advanced after Ruse retired. But the statement had already been made long before the retirement. Alex had answered the old loss. She had controlled the match. She had survived the controversy without losing focus. And when the racket inspection was over, the question had effectively disappeared. The racket wasn't the problem. The problem for Ruse was the player holding it. Now Cincinnati moves to the next chapter. And if Alex brings this same level of confidence against Anisimova, the next opponent may discover exactly what Ruse discovered. Alex Eala is no longer waiting for the moment. She is creating it.